Show tunes with lyrics where skill never wobbles. No wrong emphasis on errant syllables. Lively discussions of songs, queens and kings. This is the podcast my favourite sings. Rather than dissing what Broadway's rewarding, I'll give a listen to Goldsmith and Gordon. They'll dissect musicals, arrows and slings. Here on the podcast my favourite sings. When the show bites, when the rhymes suck, when the crafts regressed, I go to the podcast my favourite sings, where David and Paul know best.
Hello.
There he is.
There he is. There you are.
Here I am.
Hello, David.
Paulie, welcome to My Favorite Sings with David Goldsmith and Paul Gordon.
Yeah, I'm still going to rebel against that title.
I didn't understand until yesterday when I saw you that you actually you're performing under this title in protest.
Yeah, because what does it actually mean? My favorite sings.
It's a, well, first of all, obviously it's a play on My Favorite Things.
Is that a song from The Sound of Music?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Yes, I see the wordplay. I see the cleverness. But one wouldn't really actually say the phrase "my favorite sings" because it doesn't really make sense now, does it, David?
Well, it doesn't make sense in the in that E.Y. Harburg, making up words doesn't make sense, but is still delightful.
Well, I think delightful is probably a good point, but let's for now agree to disagree.
Well, okay, but we're still calling it My Favorite Sings.
Okay. And just know that I have a protest vote.
I understand.
That I'm clearly losing, but it's fun.
Well, I think
it's how life goes sometimes.
Goldsmith comes before Gordon alphabetically, so I think.
Oh, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what? I have to break up with you.
You need to find someone with a
writing partner that starts with the letter Y,
or just even H would work.
H would totally work. Do you know anybody? Is there anyone?
No one really comes to mind. I'm not really eager to have you break up with me,
All right. So,
well, welcome, Paul.
Discuss today.
Saw you yesterday. That was really fun. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you for coming to the city.
You saw a show that shall not be named that you thought was talented.
Yes, I did. I thought it was very talented.
And I was thinking of you because we can't really, because it's My Favorite Sings, not My Least Favorite Sings.
Correct.
So while talented, it's still, as most things do.
And I'm going to attribute some of it just to my taste,
Sure, always.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was really talented. I enjoyed some of it. I thought it was too long and tedious. And, for me, there was a moment in the show where there was a ballad that was a fantastic ballad that just moved me musically and lyrically. And the audience felt hungry for it.
Yeah.
It was later in the show. The audience felt hungry because it was emotional and there was something to care about. And whereas I think the audience enjoyed all of the show, or most of the audience enjoyed all of the show, it was very interesting to me how they erupted in applause after the song, that the applause sounded nothing like any of the other applause in the show. And what it informed me was that audiences are really hungry for not only just an emotional connection with characters, but they're hungry for music that moves them emotionally and a lyric that moves them emotionally, because most of the show, being incredibly clever and talented, was not about emotion or caring about someone, which is a perfectly legitimate way to write a show. but not for me as an audience member.
Well, I
So
think
this is, yeah, go ahead.
no. I think that you've really nailed the reason that we go to musicals, which is to have an emotional experience. I mean, it's really the reason we go to the theater, to have a genuine emotional experience. And it goes to like what you said last week, or what we were talking about last week, or what are the three things, that are essential. And I think I said, because I wrote it down, does it sing? Do I care? And does it have a reason for being? Ended up being my three. And
Yeah.
do I care is obviously, I was thinking about what you had said about this, and this is going to be a blind item. People will try to figure out, well, what show are we talking about? They won't, or maybe you will. I don't think I'm going to give you any more clues than that. But Brianna and I were scrolling through some videos on YouTube last night because there had been some musicals that had been performing on should I even mention the show? Sure, on Fallon. Fallon is a real Broadway booster, which is really lovely.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he actually, he'll like hold up the playbill and the camera will zoom in on it as he
That's
introduces
awesome.
them.
I didn't know. I don't watch the show. Cool.
Yeah, that's just really, and he's such a lovely, booster, and it's really nice. It's like back in the day when Rosie O'Donnell used to do that, and I was just loved her for that. Um, and we were
Yes, I
watching.
remember when Jane Eyre. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
I actually, I hope the mic caught that. Um, so we were watching one that I'm not going to talk about, and we were scrolling through, and then we came to which I had not seen, which I'm really happy to talk about, which is one of my favorite sings this season, um, which is maybe Happy Ending did an appearance on Fallon, and
Oh, great.
and they managed to get all four of the cast in the montage for the segment. And you know how you're watching the Tonys and like most of the time, or the Macy's parade, and most of the time it doesn't make you want to watch the show. It doesn't make you want to buy a ticket for the show, right? Like just usually it's just like, ugh, you might have been better off just dipping out of
Just
it.
mentioning the name of the show.
Yeah. This one, the show is so outrageously charming. I mean, outrageously charming. It has a bit more. I mean, it's bursting with charm. And when Darren and Helen sang the "When You're in Love" song, which it's sort of a montage that led into that. Boy, it's so beautiful. What a beautiful song. What a kind of just a just a perfect moment of music and lyrics and tone. And I think, it's maybe not like the most ravishing song you've ever heard in your life or whatever. But it's okay. It's just so perfectly pitched for the size of the show. And then it grows beyond the show. But the tone is so charming, and the work is so just genuinely moving and beautiful. Brianna and I turned to each other afterwards and we're both like teared up. So, um,
Yes, well, I'm glad that you mentioned Maybe Happy Ending as one of the best shows I've seen in 10 years.
I
Truly.
agree. No, I
It was,
agree.
it was an astounding show, and it had the components that I think are so essential for musicals. It had heart, humor, and music. It
Yeah.
had those three things for me as an audience member. Just, I cared about these characters. It was funny, and it was so incredibly unique. I have never seen anything like it. And, I'm not one that goes to the theater to be wowed by visuals, but
Yeah.
I was wowed by visuals, which
Same.
was just really the cherry on top because I didn't need it. Had they been on basically a
100%.
bare stage
Yep.
singing the songs and telling those stories,
Yeah.
I would have been equally as enthralled. But because it was just this visual masterpiece, it's really just a testament to the idea that if you tell a unique story and you get the audience to care about the characters and you have music and lyrics that further the story and that lift up what is happening, what I find interesting in musicals that I feel that don't work. And Happy Ending, I think, is a good example of a musical where everything completely works. Is that I've seen a lot of musicals lately where the music, instead of lifting the emotion of the musical up, it interrupts the story. It stops to accomplish something that the audience doesn't need. Either I'm going to be really funny right now for no reason at all other than I want to be funny, but I'm not moving the story forward. Or I just think it's necessary for this character to sing who doesn't need to sing.
I mean, I think that's fair. You also have to balance, you know, you have to balance the monotony of just having the same character sing over and over again. I mean, I understand the temptation to want to branch out, to other characters, but you definitely, narratively, you need to have a song that's rooted in a reason to sing, and they can't just
Yeah.
talk anymore and have to. I agree, but I just wanted to bring back maybe Happy Ending because it's a rare jewel, and I fully second what you've said about how visually stunning it is, and how the storytelling is only deepened and enhanced by the visuals. It's not a distraction, and it's not in place of. And so
Right.
often, there are elements of a musical that are in place of other musicals, of other elements that are lacking. And it's usually the performances and the visuals and the design that is operating at a higher level than the book, the music, and the lyrics. And in this case, they're so beautifully balanced. And also, they all play off of each other and enhance each other. The visual production of Maybe Happy Ending is truly, truly stunning. And the use of projections in terms of how it's advancing the narrative and not a distraction or getting in the way, or I'll never forget the first time I saw the use of projections in a musical. It was Megan Mullally singing "Happy to Keep His Dinner Warm" in the first How to Succeed revival. And there was this really odd looking digital house up behind her that was like revolving in slowly while she sang "Happy to Keep His Dinner Warm." And poor Megan Mullally is just like dwarfed on this stage, and everyone's eyes they're just like looking at this ridiculous projection behind her. And that's generally what it is. It's like
Mhm.
a better version of that. And in the case of Maybe Happy Ending, they're integrated so beautifully with the music and the lyrics and the storytelling and the performances. It's
Yeah.
really quite something.
And yet, as beautiful as the show was, and as beautiful as you're describing the design, had the show not been the show, like I would have been mesmerized by the design for 10 minutes, and
Yeah,
then I would have
that's
been
right.
bored out of my mind if the show hadn't have worked. And so the design wouldn't have mattered. I actually worked on a Broadway musical that
Oh yeah.
when we got to Broadway, we put all our focus on the design of the show and
Yeah.
not on it. And that really hurt us because a lot of times Broadway producers, the thing that's sometimes the most exciting for them is the visual and how to put the show together. And of course, we know, I mean, visuals for Broadway shows are important. There are all those elements that you need to come together. But so often in the last many years, I think more time and energy has gone to the chandelier, just to
Right.
give it the metaphor that it deserves, instead of the book and the music.
So that brings us to so last week, I never got to actually talk about the one show that I thought we were going to talk about when I said, "What's your favorite?" And I thought you were going to say Little Night Music.
Didn't I say that?
You did, but we didn't. We ended up talking about Pacific Overtures, and I actually need to go back to Pacific Overtures too, because I
Sure.
remembered, and I was just going off the top of my head, but I remembered when we were talking about the first verse of the British Admiral in Please Hello, that I believe Jason Robert Brown had done either. I was either at a thing where he was talking, and he did the same rant on the same verse, and I realized, oh, I can't just do the same rant on the same verse that Jason did. So I'm going to go to the second verse. So the first verse, as you remember, is hello, I come with letters from Her Majesty Victoria, who learning how you're trading now saying Hallelujah Gloria, and sent me to convey to you her positive euphoria, as well as little gifts from Britain's various emporia. We've done that one. Her letter, this is the second verse. Her letters do contain a few. I'm gonna just use my finger. Her letters do contain a few proposals to your emperor, which that's a quadruple rhyme in the emperor, which is going to be your antepenultimate end of the first line. Which, if of course he won't endorse, will put her in a temper, or more happily, should he agree, will serve to keep her placid, or at least till I am followed by a permanent ambassador.
Whose brain works like this? That's just crazy. He's a freak of nature.
Now, again, you can't, that is quantifiable. Like, you can actually mathematically look at that and go, okay, how do I work backwards from like whatever I want to say? Now I want to clean it up so that everything lines up that way. And you can do it. It is not just, I mean, I think it's laziness to not do it. Like, I think you just take the time you need to take to line it all up that way.
100 years, because that's how long come up with those lines to make those rhymes that brilliant. Now, I will say, David Goldsmith, partner in crime, that you're astounding that you can write that stuff. And we've written a few songs together where you come up with those crazy triple rhymes and so forth, which I think is a real skill that I wish I had. But I just want to say something, like, now that when you started to recite the lyrics slowly,
right?
What occurred in my brain is that,
you wanted to kill yourself.
I know. When I'm in the theater and there are patter songs,
yeah,
whether it's, Please Hello or Sondheim patter song, or songs from Hamilton, or a Jason patter song, I, as an audience member, have great difficulty following along the lyrics when they're going that rapidly and understanding what people are actually saying. Now, I've heard Please Hello a million times, but I'm reading the lyrics, and when I'm just listening, it's hard to hear every word and hear the cleverness of those intricate rhymes. So am I just one of those audience members that I'm just going to get a little lost when things are going really fast and I'm trying to follow cleverness and intricate rhymes? And is there a solution for that? Or is it just, some people are just better at hearing those patter songs and hearing clearly every word, and some people are just not?
I would caution against blaming yourself. I think there's so many elements. And first of all, the on the page, it needs to be so clear what's going on. Just the actual craft of a patter song needs to be constantly setting up the ear for what's coming, which means that the not only does the rhyming have to be absolutely impeccable, the consonants and vowels need to follow in a felicitous way so that consonants aren't bumping up against each other, vowels aren't bumping up against each other, so that the flow of each one of the rapid, usually 16th notes or faster notes or triplet notes or whatever they are, they need to be unfolding in a way that doesn't get in its own way phonetically. And that's just on the craft level, right? So, and then also whatever the storytelling needs to be. We're going to talk a lot about this today because I actually am going to get into some more Jason Robert Brown from what we talked about last week. Um, but the storytelling needs to also be following in a clear way so that your brain isn't having to work overtime to catch the words. The brain is actually being served what is logically and orally clear and follows in a storytelling way, in a
Well,
direct, logical way. That's the first thing. Let me just say that.
sure.
And then you've got to have an actor or a performer who can actually enunciate and spit out those words effectively, which is a whole other, thing that's out of your hands. Then you have to have the sound design of whatever room you're
Yes.
in work impeccably in support of the performance and the material. And then, of course, that includes, well, what's the band doing and what's the sound mix doing, and there's so many components when you're dealing with that normally you're not. So most of the time, if you think it's you and your brain, most of the time it's going to be something broke down between the craft of the material, the way it was performed, and then the way it was actually sent out into the room.
So that's really interesting, and I think you make great points there. And I think sound design is a huge aspect of this. But I want to talk about Hamilton for a second because I don't think Hamilton gets talked about enough. I don't
Oh,
think
no.
we discuss the
Really?
musical
Oh, I see.
culturally.
Okay.
No. I mean, here's what I want to say, because it's interesting when you were saying, in terms of rhyme and the way your brain works. Now, when I saw Hamilton, um, I had a lot of trouble
Yep.
following
I'm going
the
to
story
explain why you did.
and the lyrics. And I felt the audience, I felt like I was the only one. I felt like the audience understood every aspect of the story. They followed everything. And I'm just sitting there going, I'm lost. I missed that whole verse. Now I'm confused. Now what's happening? When I watched the show again on Disney Plus and I had the subtitles,
Yeah.
it was a completely different experience. And I had a completely different appreciation of the show when I could read and hear every word and I could follow the story. And it was night and day for me. Now, one experience, I was in a theater, with all that theater magic and this incredible performance and great sound design, I felt, and all the other bells and whistles that went with it. But watching it on my television or my computer, however I watched it, I can't remember. But seeing the same show I saw on stage, but with the subtitles, I had a night and day experience. So I guess my question is, maybe it is me, or maybe it is
Now,
some of us
okay, a
that
couple of
have
things.
a little bit more, are a little more challenged.
A couple of things. First of all, probably by the time you saw it, the recording had been out, and the audience is sitting there basically having memorized
No,
it.
I saw it at the
Okay.
public. I saw it
Great. I saw it in
very
the
early.
public too. All right. So that's fine. So that's not, and look, and I want to just stipulate that Hamilton, is, in my view, one of the great achievements in musical theater, of the past
Totally.
10 years, 15 years,
Yeah.
whatever. So like, I'm not, nothing I say
This is
is,
not a knock on the show at all. It's my experience, and why can't I assimilate these very fast
but there is
pattern?
there's a technical issue. And it's not about production and it's not about performance. It is literally about on the material level. And again, there are moments in Hamilton that are as transcendently brilliant as anything that's ever been put on a Broadway stage. So I'm going to stipulate that. That said, there is um, I don't want to say breakdown in craft, but there is a looseness in craft that comes from, you know, when we talk about musicals that are based in pop music or in this case hip hop, you know, there's a lack of definition in hip hop rhyming, traditionally, classically, where near rhyming is absolutely part of the genre. It's absolutely, accepted and fine and cool, and things don't have to absolutely match up because first of all, it's a very hard thing to do, and second of all, especially when you're going very rapidly, which Hamilton does. I mean, Hamilton has, moments of virtuosic speed that don't, you know, I'm in the government. I am complicit in watching him grabbing at power and kissing it. Kissing it is, and complicit in are not, I'm complicit in watching him grabbing at power and kissing it. Sounds like a rhyme. It is not. It is a near rhyme. I am, I'm, I'm in the government. I am complicit in rhyming, grabbing at power, whatever it was, grabbing at power and kissing it and complicit sound close, but they're not the same. So your brain is having to decipher the difference. Washington isn't going to listen to discipline. This is the difference. This kid is out. Like there's a lot of rhyming. There's a lot of S's. There's a lot of things going on that sound like they rhyme, but your brain is having to work them out all the time. Now, as brilliant as that moment is, it's not helpful unless you have repeated listening to get it. Some people will get it the first time, but some people won't. And eventually you will. But at no time is it pure lining up, true rhyming. And Hamilton, which has a lot of information and a lot of rap coming out of it, generally doesn't concern itself on the page with having true rhymes. I mean, it's great work because the sheer tonnage of information and text is really impressive. But I'm going to give you an example of something that I pulled up from our conversation about the connector last week, which is going to demonstrate, and it's one of the few times in the theater, and I'm reluctant just kind of on a cultural level to go here, but I do think just on a pure technical level of just, pure musical theater, there's an example here of a rap musical theater lyric. What is that? I just want to get that right from Hamilton that I was just trying to quote. I didn't do a very good job of it, and I don't think it's fair. And I haven't done it in years. I'm in the government. I am complicit in watching him grabbing at power and kissing it. Washington isn't going to listen to discipline dissidents. Discipline dissidents. This is the difference. This kid is out. So that's what it is. I'm in the government. I am complicit in watching him grabbing at power and kissing it. Washington isn't going to listen to discipline dissidents. This is the difference. This kid is out. That is amazing. Not how I do it,
Yep.
but it's amazing. But it's also, there's a lot of work to do for your brain to figure it out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is from the song in the connector that I cited last week called Wind in My Sails. It is, fortunately or unfortunately, it is a rap song sung by one of the few, well, no, not the only, but one of the, well, no, he's a black character, say it. And it is written by a Jewish man, of which I am also of that persuasion, and are you, as I believe. Not to put targets on our backs. But that said, and the context of the song is this is one of the fabulous stories that the lead character is making up, that will ultimately lead to his downfall. I assume you saw the show I didn't get to, which is
Wow. Spoilers.
one of my great regrets of the past 2 years is that I didn't actually make it over to MCC to see this, because I just think the score is a top to bottom masterpiece. And I think you agree with me on that.
I totally agree. I love this score. I loved the show.
Tell me, before no, I'll get back. Well, actually, no, let me do the lyric first since we're here.
Well, yeah,
and then, because I actually want to talk to you about the show. So I'm gonna start lining up for you like I did with the British Admiral, the internal rhymes that he's doing here, and also think about he's telling a story about the character is telling this made up story about I mean he's a fictional character in the context of the show that our main character is writing about, who he is just making up out of thin air, along with the character's story, which is about a corrupt mayor in Jersey City, where I am sitting and speaking to you from right now. Um, and I'm going to get through the whole thing because it's honestly it's astonishing, and where he goes with it is astonishing, even rhythmically. There's a trick he uses that I think is just amazing. So
Can I say
let's
something right before you play this?
of course, I'm not going to play anything because I don't have the right to, but I will speak it to you.
Right. Is that I remember when this song came in the show. First of all, I want to say the sound design was not good. Sorry.
No, interesting.
It was not good. I saw it closing night, and the band might have been playing a little too loud. Jason was playing an MD. I mean, the music sounded so great, but it overpowered. But I do want to say that I could not follow this lyric at all
Really?
during the show again, and I think it's me. Although the sound design wasn't good, and I even have trouble following it on the record. With that said, go
Oh,
for it.
all right. Well, maybe it is you, Paulie.
It might be me.
Maybe you. But you did speak to the sound design being a problem.
I did, at least on closing night, it was a problem.
It's a really tricky thing once you start putting people in a room, because once you put people in the room, it absorbs the sound, and then
Sound design for theater and live concerts just does not compare to recorded quality. It's just we cannot get close to that for whatever reason, and it's hard. And it's always different. Every night you go to a show, like something is going to be different and something could be off.
it's one of the most important jobs in the theater right now, sound mixer. It really is. And all that said, I do think it's a worthy endeavor to keep trying to get it right so that we can have lyrics like this. You ready?
Yep.
Let's say you were me, hypothetically, but instead of your fancy degree, you've been learning at the feet of the local sages whose names and ages ain't in your white pages. Uh-uh-uh. But you got this far by knowing where you are and how to strike a bargain and play the margins and take the measure, and knowing some people pay extra for their private pleasure. You get some information. And by the way, I want to talk about you got this far by knowing where you are and how to strike a bargain and play the margin. So he's breaking up words, but you can do this because you're continuing. In other words, the logic of what you're saying isn't broken up. Like it's not the end of a word and then it's like a pause or a beat, and then you go to mar, then you go gins. It's like margins that you're hearing it, orally. This is very much
So the stress on the first syllable is what you're saying.
Yeah.
The
Well,
rhyme stress is on.
the other thing, yes, of course, is that I'm not in terms of prosody, like we were talking about, the emphasis is always perfect here. And
Yes.
there are moments in Hamilton, that don't work. The prosody doesn't work. I mean, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry.
Yeah, I'm always uncomfortable, except for Alanis, when you're stressing, because she does it intentionally.
He does it intentionally.
When you're stressing the wrong syllable, it just that will never work.
I mean, look, the thing about that one in Hamilton is he repeats it so many times, eventually you'll get it. But and maybe you'll get it the first time, but you're working to get young, scrappy, and hungry. What's scrappian? Young, and you have to go young, and like if you displaced where the beat falls, where the rhythm falls, if you went young, scrappy, and hungry, like right on the beat, I am young, scrappy, and hungry, it wouldn't be cool anymore, but it also would be like clear to hear. So I get why you didn't do that, but on the other hand, scrappy is.
And yet for me, it wouldn't matter because I don't hear anything anyway. So
yeah, yes, you would. Okay. You get some information that could damage a certain someone's reputation, so you commence a negotiation to get some compensation and raise up your station. So amazing. Now, Asian is one of the last refuges of a scoundrel because there's so many that once you go there, you're going to be in the clear for a long time. Like, so, if you should be doing five if you're going to an Asian rhyme, but it still has it's what's great about Asian rhymes are that there's so not that there's so many of them, but it sounds cool. They sound sophisticated. They are feminine rhymes, which tend to sound more sophisticated than masculine rhymes, which just end on the downbeat in one syllable. A feminine rhyme, which will be the accent on the penultimate syllable, is always it sounds cooler. Um,
What's
but
an
also,
example of a feminine rhyme?
yeah, like negotiation, compensation, raise up your station. Those are all feminine rhymes. The emphasis is on the penultimate syllable.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but all of these end up going to a masculine rhyme. So the feminine rhymes tend to be very useful when you're rhyming internally. When you're doing an internal
Mhm.
rhyme, that's where those they really come in handy. And you can always remember, as a practicing lyricist, you can always remember, well, I could always try for an Asian rhyme because there's a lot of them, and they always make you look and sound smart, smarter than you probably are. So
It's so
that's it.
funny, when we
So go
write
ahead.
lyrics for a long time, I avoid Asian rhymes now because they just sound so ordinary. It's just like
Oh, that's interesting.
it's like a cheat. It's just like, yeah, you can rhyme anything.
You
So
can,
sometimes I
but I don't think there's anything hackneyed or
no,
cliche
of course not.
about.
Of course, that's just my brain. It's just like,
But when you heard those just now, you get some information that could damage a certain someone's reputation. So you commence a negotiation to get some compensation and raise up your station. Does any of that sound cliche or hackneyed to you, or no?
it's so funny reading them slow like that. I mean, Jason is such a genius lyricist, but that just sounds like, oh, anybody could have come up with that because it's Asian. And like, who can't come up with five rhymes for Asian?
Well, that's well, we agree. That said,
That said,
good stuff. Now, here we get into some more stuff that you don't hear as much, but just when the parties have reckoned on terms, he has second thoughts and the gentleman squirms, which I love.
cool.
Now you're abandoned, you're left high and dry with only the silence he failed to buy. So you have a little internal silence you
Hmm.
failed to buy, which you wouldn't get away with unless it was in the middle of the phrase, and it is. Now, what do you do in the face of defeat? Do you attack? Do you crack? Do you backtrack to your shack on the street?
That's cool. See, I
Very
love
hip
all that
hop,
because it's uneven. And again, it's very much in that sort of hip hop style, but with true rhymes.
which I think is that's
Yeah,
exactly what I just think is so
my
helpful.
ear gravitates towards.
Or do you say information has its price? If they won't play nice, you can roll the dice. When discussion fails, you can balance the scales with some well placed sales of a couple details. And now, and this is what I love. So he set up the end of his verses with ales rhymes. And then the hook is going to be I got the wind in my sails. So it's just gorgeous the way it
Hmm.
unfolds for the first time
Hmm.
into the chorus. Um, when discussion fails, you can balance the scales with some well-placed sales of a couple details. And now, interestingly, he's using a homonym sales, well-placed sales, SALES, for the hook sales, which is SAILS. And it would not work. It would fall apart if he followed the homonym sales, SALES, with the chorus sales, SAILS. But in between, he puts of a couple details. So he takes us away from the homonym so we can go back to the homonym for the chorus. See what I mean?
I do see, but it begs a question, David. In a song, in a lyric that you wrote for our latest show, My Improbable Sisters,
Hmm.
um, some of me, you actually say the same word back to back with two different meanings, which I actually had an issue with initially. I've gotten used to it, but I guess sometimes you can do that because
Sometimes
you did
you
it.
do that. And I will absolutely
But it
defend.
wasn't a rhyme. It was not a
No,
rhyme.
it's a
Oh,
homonym.
it was a rhyme. It
It's
was a
not it's not
rhyme.
a rhyme, it's a homonym. I'm saying I'm using some of me and SOME of me. But the
Yeah,
reason I put those back to back in the song from My Improbable Sisters is to literally have you go in your brain from that word to the other word, like to have
right.
intentionally nothing in between them, because
And one
because
is
that's not
much,
sorry, because that's not there to rhyme. That's there for meaning. That's there
yeah,
for, oh, I'm connecting. You're the sum of me, not just some of me, right?
right. And it's also much slower. When you're doing a fast hip hop tune, things are going by really fast. And I think it's harder to assimilate all of that in one's brain.
Well, it is. I mean, you would still, in this case, in Jason's song, um, he's going directly to the ends of these lines. The well placed sales, scales, fails, um, couple details. So those are about lining up rhymes. So
Yeah.
you would still hear sales and sales if it was SAIL and SALE, which is reversed.
Mhm.
You would understand it. It just wouldn't be a rhyme because a rhyme is never
Sondheim
the
ever,
same sound.
has Sondheim ever done a rhyme like that?
No, he wouldn't have rhymed. He wouldn't have rhymed phonetically with the same word because that's not a rhyme. It's the same word. Even if it's a different word, if it's the same sound, it functionally is the same word.
Yeah.
Right?
And listen, I understand why you guys both did it. It's great. Totally works. I approve.
Thank you.
Which
Um,
you both need my approval. So it's
I
fitting
do
that
personally. And I'm sure Jason would say he needs it too.
he doesn't need my approval.
Um, well placed scales of a couple of tails, and now I got the wind in my sails. We're in the chorus. I got the wind in my sails, little brother. And so here now we're relaxing into the chorus. We're always going to hear this. I got the wind in my sails, going to wind in my sails, little brother. And then we do the second half of the chorus or the development of the
Mhm.
chorus, which will always alter. So you'll start with that hook, and it'll always be like, okay, that's my landing place. And then the music will stay the same each time, but the first time it will be um, who's gonna fall, who's gonna stand, who's this is amazing to me. Who's gonna fall, who's gonna stand, who's got the upper hand, and who's got supply to meet the demand, and the wind, the wind, the wind, the wind in my sails. It's just a perfect, it's like, when we were in English class in high school and you had to have like the 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 statement paragraph, the opening paragraph, the paragraph that basically gave you the overview of what the whole thing was about. So he manages in his chorus to do what a chorus should do, which is bring all of the concepts home so that I understand
Mhm.
exactly what I'm listening to, why
Yeah.
I'm listening to it. And then the craft of it. Who's going to fall? Who's going to stand? It's so fundamental to the idea of the song. It's like
Yeah.
we have all of this storytelling, all of this wild ass, rhyming and lyrics and intellectual pathways. It's very Sorkin-esque. Like, we're starting outside of something to build back into it, and we don't know where we're going. And where we're ending up going that puts it all together for my brain, for our storytelling brains, is what's the point of all of this? Who's going to fall? Who's going to stand? Who's got the upper hand? Like the 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 opposites of fall and stand, right? Who's got the upper hand? Who's got supply to meet the demand? So smart. It's a business term, right? And it is what he's doing. It's all about business and the wind, the wind, the wind in my sails. It's just impeccable lyric writing craft. It's impeccable. Okay, here's what I wanted to get to. I'm boring you now.
No, no. I was actually just trying to bring up the cast list for the song list for the connector, because I want to talk about some of the music, but
Oh
I
yeah.
can't find it. Yes, continue.
Look, this is my course. This is my
No,
course.
I know. I know. I'm here
Songwriting for
for
the
it.
musical theater, lyric writing for the musical
I,
theater.
I understand. I
This is
wasn't
what you,
bored and looking at my phone. I was just actually trying to find the show we were talking about.
this is what you're going to
I'm
get.
good on my phone. I'm not quick.
Oh, that's fine. You just have to come in prepped.
I know. I didn't.
No, you're not supposed to. I'm the one prepping, and then I just throw shit at you.
All right. Continue.
Um, yeah, but this is what you're going to get when you sign up for my class.
All right. But is this what you're going to get when you sign up for our podcast?
Yeah, this too.
Okay. Shit. All right. Continue.
Okay, here's the bridge. Ready?
I'm ready. Ready for the bridge.
Okay, and it's actually the second part of the bridge that's genius, but here we go. Afraid? Fuck that. I ain't afraid. I've seen how the sausage gets made. I'm gonna get paid before I get played or end up on the business end of a blade. Amazing.
Mhm.
See, it's not a story about right or wrong. I said all along, it's about who's strong and who can handle a little pressure. Sit down, son. I'm gonna give you a refresher. Now, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Oh, that was genius. I don't have to even talk about it. This is what's happening with the rhythm. Listen to this. A is the mayor, C is the people, B is the man in between. A plays unfair, C's unaware, B calls your magazine. A gets defensive, B gets expensive, C starts to fear the worst. So C puts the pressure on A, puts the pressure on B. Who's gonna crumble first?
Yeah. That's the best verse in the whole song.
Do, okay, tell me why.
Well, I don't want it to, I want you to tell me why. Just
Okay.
how it played on my ear and how interesting it was.
Yeah.
And and the I don't know. I just that just hit me in a great way. That's how I would explain it.
Yeah, I wanna okay, I'll go in order. The storytelling is so smart, and there's time to make sense of what he's doing, and it's so funny and witty, and just on the word level, not just even the lyric level. A is the mayor, C is the people, B is the man in between. It creates an image in your head. It
Right.
creates even the lettering, and he puts B as the man in between A and C. Um, A plays unfair, C's unaware, B calls your magazine. So he's creating this story. Here's where here's where I'm just my mind is completely blown. So the beat is doing this, and he's starting on the beat, each one of these, right? Each one of these fragments starts on the beat. A is the mayor. C is, well, he's syncopating now. He starts on the beat and then syncopates. A is the mayor. C is the people. B is the man in between. So now we're in syncopation, right? A plays unfair. C's unaware. B calls your magazine. A gets. So then he shifts by a half note. I'm sorry, a half note. He shifts by an eighth note so that what was syncopated becomes a pickup onto the downbeat. And so it's not A gets defensive, B gets expensive, C, which every composer in the world would do. Like everyone would just keep going syncopated. So it would be A gets defensive, B gets expensive, C starts to fear the worst. So C, but that's what everyone would do. And everyone in the audience is in that groove, so they think they're syncopated. So what happens is when he instead goes from syncopation to making it the pickup to the downbeat, the audience is thrown off. The music is continuing, the pulse is continuing underneath, but the melody has shifted, and so it feels like something's off, and you don't know, you feel unsettled, and you don't know why, and it's the perfect expression from a character and story standpoint of what he's doing, which is trying to throw you off and get the advantage over you. And so it's just a perfect bit of book, music, and lyrics all happening at one time. And he's creating it as a composer and as a lyricist, but also telling story and character and doing it viscerally. It's honestly Like I kept listening to that going, what's happening there? And then I realized it's very intentionally. A gets defensive, B gets expensive, C starts to fear the worst. So C puts the pressure on A, puts the pressure on B. Who's going to crumble first? As opposed to A gets defensive, B gets expensive, C starts to fear the worst. Do you see the difference? Do you hear the difference? And every time I hear that, I just want to send Jason Robert Brown an email and say, how the fuck, how the fuck did you even think about that? I mean, think to do that. It's unbelievable. And so let's think about those things, like, you know,
Sure.
da 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 da. So anyway, bravo,
Oh
Jason.
my God. Yeah. I mean, it's so great that
Genius.
I love that you took this lyric apart and showed really the genius of it. The genius of this score for me is the music. I mean, obviously the lyrics, he's an amazing lyricist, but as you know, we've talked many times, I hear music first. I'm hearing the words, but I'm feeling the music, and that's where a lot of my attention goes when I'm seeing a show, which is why sometimes I get lost because I'm not focused as much on the lyrics as I am on what the music is doing for me emotionally. And when I saw this show, I mean, because the band was a bit loud, I had trouble hearing a lot of the lyrics, even on the ballads and the mid tempos. But I heard the music, and the music told. What's so amazing about his writing is that even if you miss lyrics, you're still following the story
Yeah.
because he is able, to do what some of our great classical composers have done, which is, without lyrics, tell
Yeah.
you a story and give you emotion and take you on a journey.
But I want to also say that you mentioned about where Jason's taking us to sounds we haven't heard before, which Adam Gettle does, which David Yazbek can do. Um,
Yes.
uh, I I want to say that in the case of the connector, the score of the connector in particular, what Jason's doing, like in a song like Cassandra, is when he goes to some place you weren't expecting in Cassandra, it's not
Musically, someplace you weren't
musically,
expecting.
musically,
Yes.
but actually he is allowing lyrically himself to also follow um, tonally where he's taking us each time musically. But my point is that structurally, he is on such solid footing in a way that Adam never really bothers to do, and Jason hasn't always done, where it's the actual structural integrity of Cassandra is pristine. There's not, I mean, and I think sometimes it's good to break through a pristine structure and give a little bit of a ramble, but a lot of times if all it is rambling from one idea to the next and nothing ever gets repeated or restated or grounded or reflected through the lens of what we've learned from the verses previously, the song can then become tedious in its own way. Like it's just like, okay, I can't really take in any more of these ideas because they're not connecting to anything. But in the connector, his his structural integrity of each one of these songs, even when so every time he goes in Cassandra to half the stories of the world are left unwritten, half the stories of the world are kept unread, and so the people of the world will never notice what disasters unprevented lie ahead. That's musically where the song soars and goes into a new place, and then it goes back to at a desk, in a phone, in an office somewhere, it goes back to the verses. But every time he goes to that, it's not like he went there and then just like went to somewhere else and then went to somewhere else again. He keeps going back to that idea. And every time you're hearing that music, it's
Because
always
he
got
knows how to
the same
write a
idea.
song.
All the women of the world are shamed to silence. All their warnings to the world are heard too late. And so the people of the world. So that people of the world, women of the world, you're always hearing that phrase. And that's what's sticking in your
Mhm.
ear. Um, and then he's set that up so strictly and beautifully that then he can go, it's easy for you. You know, it's easy for you, but I'm missing it. It's easy for you. I'm glad it's easy for you, but I'm missing it. And it's like you didn't see that coming, but you can take it in. And it's a new part of the structure. It builds on what foundation was there before. And
Yeah.
that's a level of craftsmanship that I think a lot of people resist. And I think he's constantly showing in this score how you can still color outside the lines, but have very distinctive lines. And that's the most effective way to um, to draw the picture. So anyway,
Yeah. I think that's really well said. Next week is David Yazbek.
we're going to go into the band's visit. That's for next week.
We're going to go into the band's visit.
Yeah. With a little Sondheim. We'll always start with a little Sondheim, I think. A little Sousson
Yeah, I mean,
Sondheim. How about that? That'll be a feature. A Sousson of Sondheim. No?
I think it would be appropriate to start every session, every podcast, with discussing a little night music.
Where's
and
the lie?
simply a little music.
We still really haven't discussed it.
No. Well, that's a whole thing. I mean, I have stories about how that show has influenced my career and how it really taught me everything I know about writing musicals.
We definitely came up at the right time for what we do, because when we were teenagers, what was hitting us, when I wanted to talk about this too, actually, I didn't. What was hitting us was the great Sondheim musicals of the 70s. Company, Follies, Night Music, Pacific Overtures, and Sweeney Todd. Like, those were our formative.
That was our education. And, whereas my musical education was the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Motown, Burt Bacharach, Carole King, Paul Simon, and Joni Mitchell.
Those are all good,
along with the golden age of musicals, Guys and Dolls, West Side Story, Sound of Music, and My Fair Lady. So I do think we sort of came up at the right time, but times change,
and everyone feels like they came up at the right time.
The audience is looking for more, contemporary, edgy things, and it's interesting how things evolve, but listen, it's always interesting.
We're gonna, that's why we keep writing new and edgy things. Right?
That's right.
Go to virtualstagelab.com. Go to our YouTube channel. My Improbable Sisters, 5 Women in an Airport, Ribbit. Watch them all.
Yeah.
We
could always talk about our show.
Yeah.
I would say next week, let's, since you're talking about lyrics, there's a lyric you wrote for Little Dorrit that's a bit of a rap lyric that I think is just as astounding as some of the lyrics that you read. So in terms of how the fuck did you do that?
All right, I'm going to make a note. Next week, the Rigaud song from Little Dorrit, I think is what you're talking about.
Yes, that is what I'm talking about.
All right, well, folks, we have a request for next week. There's going to be a little bit of David Goldsmith lyric.
Yes, and I'd like to take a moment to address our audience, which is basically just your wife, because my wife's not even going to watch.
She's not interested.
So
my wife is my wife could maybe be the only person on earth less interested than your wife. So,
really?
She's not going to listen to this.
So really, I'm going to address our audience, David.
Yeah.
When you watch this back,
just
know that I really enjoyed your segment today.
Thanks.
And so I zoned out just a little when you were analyzing the lyrics.
Yeah,
I came back.
I
just want you to know that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that analytic report. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna when the dial was down, I'm gonna definitely take a look at how I can improve.
Thank you. Should we talk a little bit about Ray Walston?
Always, but offline.
No. I mean, I think it's important to note that, in my opinion, he's maybe the greatest musical theater actor that ever lived. And of course, I'm referencing his astounding performance in the film damn Yankees. All right, I think we should leave it there.
Those were the good old days, as we used to say.
That's
Paul,
right. Those were the good old days.
it's always a pleasure.
David, it's often a pleasure.
That's enough for me. Love you, Paul.
Okay. Love you, David.
Bye.
My Favorite Sings with David Goldsmith and Paul Gordon is a production of Virtual Stage Lab. Virtual Stage Lab was founded to create film captures of original musicals and plays to democratize how theater gets developed, seen, produced, and licensed for production. If you have a favorite sing from a musical that you'd like to have David and Paul discuss, break down, and analyze, please contact our Director of Marketing, Melody Munitz, at virtualstagelab@gmail.com. For more information and our catalog of original projects by Paul Gordon and David Goldsmith and others, go to www.virtualstagelab.com. Main title parody lyrics written and performed by David Goldsmith. End title music by Paul Gordon from the Gordon and Goldsmith musical My Improbable Sisters, starring Jenna Lee Rosen and Tony Award nominee Jasmine Amy Rogers, now available to stream for free on the Virtual Stage Lab page on YouTube. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please like, comment, and share on social media. Thank you for listening. Welcome to the community. This has been My Favorite Sings, a practically perfect, not at all corny title. Title under protest by Paul Gordon.